and welcome into this week's episode of Craze's Corner. We got a lot to talk about today. This is going to be a Dynasty episode, so if you have any Dynasty leagues, you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned, whether you're contending or you're trying to, maybe play for next year. We got guys that you should try and target before your trade deadline. Hopefully, like my leagues is in a couple weeks. Still got a few more weeks to make some moves. But if not, it's definitely coming up soon, so you want to make sure you watch this episode. We're going to give you some guys you want on your team if you're trying to win. Maybe some guys you might not be able to, my guys who can win you a championship, some guys that aren't going to cost you, 3 first-round picks. We're not going to be talking about super, big names. Justin Jefferson is not going to be brought up on the show, but we got a couple names for you. We're going to talk about some news, though, first. We got the Texans being active on the waivers. They just picked up Benjamin and Amari Rodgers. So maybe they're trying to add some more weapons for Davis Mills, trying to see what he can do. They can add some more competition for Dameon Pierce. That looks good for them. There's a bunch of teams interested in Benjamin, but because the Texans are so bad, they had the priority claim. Next one, killer for a lot of fantasy teams, Dallas Goedert is expected to miss at least 4 weeks after being placed on the IR. We'll see if he comes back in the regular season. He'll definitely be back for the playoffs. We just got to kind of wait and see at this point. Probably droppable unless you have an IR spot. And another tragic injury. A lot of people took him as a wide receiver 1. If you listen to us, you would take him as a wide receiver 2, but still super high up in the draft. Cooper Kupp has been placed on IR. If the Rams don't look good in 4 weeks, they're still not playing well. They're pretty much out of playoff contention. I don't expect them to bring back Cooper Kupp this year. Definitely kills him. I just think it's a rough time if you drafted Cooper Kupp. You draft him in the first round. But I want to hear from you guys. Did you guys draft Cooper Kupp, Dallas Goedert? Who is the one guy so far this year that just injuries have kind of screwed over your team? Or do you have a team maybe that hasn't had the injuries? Maybe you're that lucky guy. You're almost undefeated because your team hasn't dealt with the injuries. Let us know using the media app. The media app is a virtual press conferencing app that allows you to host a virtual press conference from your phone. All new version has launched. You definitely need to go check it out. You can replace your background. You can have mics in front of you, podiums. It's amazing. You can use it for your fantasy football leagues. You can use it to answer questions I'm going to post. Jeff posts questions in there. There's lots of good stuff. Definitely go get on the app before it gets huge. There's going to be players on it. We're going to have lots of guys you're going to want to ask questions to. They're going to be able to answer them. Definitely go check it out. It's on the Google Play and the App Store. And now let's welcome in our guests. We have Jeff and Will from Media. Welcome in, guys.
What's happening?
Hey, man.
Guys,
Here.
Yeah, we're super excited. Trade deadlines are coming up. Dynasty's always super fun. Sometimes your team's doing really good. Sometimes they're not quite doing so well. So you want to kind of play it out. Maybe your team was supposed to do really well. You thought, you were shooting for the championship. And you're, 1 win, 2 wins on the season. You're like, all right, I need to go get some younger guys. This is the show, get some younger guys. You can get some older guys. We each have 2 guys you should trade for if you're trying to win this year. 2 guys you should try and trade for if you're trying to win maybe next year and in the future. I'm going to start us off. This is Jeff's guy. Jeff didn't bring him up on the show, but I'm going to bring him up for Jeff. Almost 29-year-old Derrick Henry. If he's on a team that isn't contending this year, maybe he's on a team that struggled with injuries, a guy you can go get based off his age for maybe a first-round pick, and you might be able to get him for that. And I think at that value, if you're a team that's trying to contend right now, there's no better option than to go get an older running back who's going to put up so many points this year for you in the fantasy football playoffs. He's definitely a win-now type of player, and he's a guy that puts up monster numbers. Jeff talked about him. Jeff's been in love with Derrick Henry for a long time, and I'm coming around if you need to go make some moves to try and put your team over the top. This isn't necessarily maybe you're already close to first, but you just need that extra little bit to try and win you a couple matchups in the playoffs. And to me, Derrick Henry is that. Jeff, Are you in on Derrick Henry as well if you can go get him?
Definitely. I think last week was a little bit of an aberration. If you have Derrick Henry, you're probably at least in the middle of the pack in your league, if not in the upper half. But yeah, he's going to continue to be fed, and that's the main thing. You want guys who are going to have the ball in their hands early and often going into your playoffs, and especially going into the championship. And I believe he's got some soft matchups coming up.
Yep.
So,
yeah, he does. He plays week 1 of the playoffs, week 15 is the Chargers. Chargers have not been good at anything when it comes to playing defense. And then he plays Houston. Derrick Henry runs all over Houston. It does not matter. That's an easy 200 yards and 2 touchdowns there. And Dallas, which is a tougher matchup, but you get to the championship with Derrick Henry after 2 big games for sure. He's going to be able to put up some solid numbers against a tough matchup. I'm not super worried about that. But Houston, semifinals, that's an easy 30-point week for Derrick Henry.
And if you follow Derrick Henry like I do, he gets better towards the end of the season, especially during the playoffs.
Yeah, he definitely does. I'm all in on Derrick Henry if you're trying to contend this year. Go get him. I'm willing to give up a first-round pick for him if you think you're going to be a contending guy. It's going to be a late first. I would definitely be willing to give that up. Maybe you could do player swaps as well in there. But I think that's a move you need to go make. If you're kind of on the fence, maybe you're even, you're in 6th right now. Derrick Henry's a guy who can go put you up into that 4th, 3rd. And once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. You just got to win 3 weeks. That's all you need to do. So I am definitely in on that. Will's looking around. Maybe he's looking for an excuse.
You got a ghost in there?
Did y'all see that? Something moved behind me. I was like, what the hell was that? Oh, okay. I'm losing it. Sorry.
Are you in on Derrick Henry, Will?
Landry is behind you.
I'm in with him, maybe even better on Friday morning. Because last time they played, I know the Packers haven't been what they have, but the last time 2 years ago when they played, the NFL radio was talking about this, Packers completely shut him down. And they played a game where they made Tannehill beat them. And I think we should keep that in mind, that on a short week, Derrick Henry might not have a good week this week. And people might panic. And it might be a good time to get in on him because, as Jeff said, Derrick Henry the last 4 weeks of the season is money.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a guy, championship caliber player. He's won people championships before, but given the fact he's 29, people are willing to move on. People want to get young. Everyone's scared of those, 28-year-old running backs. They're expecting to fall off. It could happen with Derrick Henry soon, but it has not happened yet. Will is still looking around. We're going to go.
I'm telling you, it's the strangest thing, but okay.
We're sticking at the running back position, Jeff. Who you want to talk about?
I'm saying he may pan out for you. He may get some of his lost luster back. Go put in a trade for Jonathan Taylor. People are bailing out on this dude right now. And I'm wondering, with Matt Ryan now being put back in, actually looking a little bit better, you could probably get the first pick in the draft for probably little or nothing right now. A decent wide receiver followed up or paired with a decent running back. I think people are willing to move on from him right now. He's still not scoring. He got a lot of touches last week against the Raiders, and who knows what happens. If you need a solid back during those last few weeks of the season, a guy that could have high upside, I'd go ahead and try to get him.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a guy, as you said, he was probably the number 1 pick in most dynasty startup drafts outside the quarterback position if you play in super flex. He went off big last week. Jeff Saturday's in there now. They have a couple tough matchups when it comes to playoffs with the Giants in Minnesota, but that's something that they're just going to feed Jonathan Taylor, who was on the field the most last week than he had been all of the previous games so far this season. So I think that he's going to be fed. I like this. He's also super young still too. So I'd be comfortable if you think you're going to contend. You can give up a first, a second, and then a player for Jonathan Taylor. And if you can get that deal done, I'd be quite comfortable doing that. He's going to compete. He's going to give you numbers this year. and next year. Will, what are your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor?
It's Herschel Walker. Watch out.
Yeah, it's Herschel. It's the ghost of the Herschel Walker trade. You ain't lying about that. Look, I'm just not high on the Colts. I think that was a great win for them last week, emotional win, but it was the Raiders who have just look. They might be in fantasy football. That team might be the most disappointing team for fantasy owners because I think we all thought, hey, there's going to be some fantasy points on this team, and I just don't see it. But we'll see. If you could get him, yeah, he's a former first-round pick. I just don't have high expectations for the Colts the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Talking just a little bit briefly, we talked about the Raiders. If you can go find a San Francisco 49er to trade for, that's who the Raiders play Week 17 when it's all going to matter for your fantasy football championship. So Chris McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, all going to be must-starts championship week. Don't be surprised if they all score like 5 touchdowns. It definitely could happen. The Raiders have been terrible. But Will, I'm not sure I really want to talk about this guy here.
And I didn't do it because of that. I really didn't do it because of your relationship with. We
have to talk about a guy who scored a total of 2 points last week against a defense that's been terrible. All right, let's talk about him, Will.
Look, when I get these questions, I'm thinking, what's tangible? Who can you go get that won't cost you that much and help your team right now? And so my first guy up is Cordarelle Patterson. I think he's undervalued right now. I feel
he's not good at football. He's being properly valued.
No, Algiers' numbers are going to take a hit, especially if Atlanta thinks they can get a playoff spot. If Atlanta gets out of this, then I think maybe Cordarelle Patterson's value is not as much. But right now, Atlanta thinks they're in it, and so they're going to play him, and I think he's going to score points. I think he's going to get touchdowns for them. So if you can get him for a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick, it can help the bottom of your roster.
For Algiers, the first week back with Patterson, his snaps went from 60 to 38. And the second week, Patterson playing, his snaps went from 38 to 48%. So he was the main running back for the Falcons last week against the Panthers.
But who had more points? I think
Caleb Huntley outscored everyone in that backfield.
Look, if you're asking me who I can trade for right now, I don't want to give up my 1st or 2nd round pick. I'm trying to find guys I can move my 3rd or 4th round pick next year. If your draft has that, if your dynasty has that many rounds, I'm not going over a 2. I'm not giving up my 1st round pick. That draft is going to be good next year, and I'm trying to find some balance of trying to win this year without giving up the future like I would have to with Derrick Henry.
If you start Cordarelle Patterson, your fantasy football championship. I'm not saying
start. I'm saying my 3rd running back.
If you're trading for him to try and win this year, and if you start him, you're going to be disappointed.
We'll see.
About half the time. He'll score in half the games, and he won't score in the other half, and you're going to be disappointed in those other half the games. Stay away from Cordarelle Patterson. Jeff, would you like to add anything here?
Jeff, be nice to Cordarelle.
Normally
he may be listening.
For some Cordarelle love, but I definitely am not trading for him. There are too many other dudes. I mean, honestly, though, Will, I will say you can probably get him pretty cheap right now.
Who can you get cheap? That could
I don't know if he's going to help you. That's the only thing. I mean, it's like you get him and
you give up a 3rd, but what could you have had with that 3rd?
There's nothing on your waiver wire that can help you at this point in the year.
No.
So you have your draft picks as your only capital. So you have to make a decision. Are you willing to mortgage the future for Derrick Henry?
Yes. If you're going to win, if you think this is going to win the league, that's all that matters. If you win and you have a couple bad years and then you can make a push and win again, if you're going to be
I don't like having bad years.
If you're going to be mid throughout the entirety of you being in a dynasty league and you never win, there's no point.
I think if you're
Cordell Patterson's not going to win you your dynasty league. I'm telling you.
Well, come on, Cordell. Let's go. Let's ride, Cordell.
Let's ride. Guys, man,
it's okay.
I would look at.
And this is why I'm recommending it, because if owners in your league have the attitude of Jeff and Zach, you might be able to get him for nothing.
I traded Cordell Patterson away last year for a second.
Pick with him.
I traded him away last year for a second-round pick. I was quite happy with that. Made me happy. But let's move on to a guy I think we're all going to agree upon here. 28 again. Not super old. We're going to stray away from the running back position here. We're going to get into the wide receivers, so it's a little bit better. 28, not super old for a wide receiver. This is a guy who's currently the wide receiver 14, and he gets his quarterback back week 13. Go get yourself some Amari Cooper. Buy in on Amari Cooper now before it's too late. Once him and Watson start connecting on the field, you're not going to be able to get your hands on Amari Cooper. He's going to shoot up into dynasty leagues when you're looking at it next year. He's going to be one of those higher picks. Go get him this year for your fantasy playoffs. He's going to come in. He's going to perform. They have extremely favorable matchups in the playoffs. Baltimore, their defense has been atrocious against the pass so far this year. 2 threw for 6 touchdowns against them. New Orleans, they have not been good as well when it comes to playing defense. And probably one of the worst defenses in the league, Washington. You give me those 3 matchups with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, the number 1 weapon in that number 1 target in that offense. Amari Cooper's going to go off. I'm buying.
You can buy, but I'm going to warn everybody. I don't think Watson watching the preseason. People forget how long Watson's been out. He's not going to just walk in after 2 weeks of practice and play well in the end. Probably end up beating this. That's my gut. I think this year becomes a transition year. And if you can get Cooper in the dynasty and you're okay, this might be a next year payoff, not this year. I think you have to be careful with Cooper. And I will say that game, that championship weekend, is in Washington. Washington's defense is no joke. Those young corners are coming along. That defensive line is freaking dominant. Washington is one of the most underrated teams in this league right now. And that would make me I agree with you, the Ravens and Saints, okay, especially the Saints. Like, all right. But that championship week against Washington, I'm not sure that's a good matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, what do you think before I chime back in here? Are you in on?
Well, he's on several of my teams. And right now, I think is a good time to go ahead and even get him because people are starting to worry about Donovan Peoples-Jones starting to take some targets away from him. But that's just it. They got Amari Cooper to be a toy for Deshaun Watson. So those two are going to link up. I'm not as worried about Washington's defense as Will is.
No.
Yeah, because I've seen them in some other games. They are starting to come around, but they've got Deshaun Watson is still a different animal than Jacoby Brissett. So you've got to watch his legs. I think it's going to draw up some of those corners and safeties watching him, and he's going to be able to get the ball off to Amari Cooper. So we'll see.
I think the Washington so far is top 8 in most points allowed to the wide receiver position when it comes to fantasy football matchups. They played the Eagles last week, and I've been known to say this before, but Jalen Hurts really doesn't scare me as a passer, so I'm not super worried about A.J. Brown's 1 catch for 7 yards. I think Deshaun Watson will fare much better targeting his number 1 wide receiver. But, yeah, I think Amari Cooper, as you said, he's going to have a good, strong end of season because I think Watson's going to come in. It might take him a week or 2, but when it comes down to it, you're in week 17. I think the Browns are going to be able to maybe pull off something to try and get into the wild card spot. And I'm interested to see what it's going to look like. And even if it's not this year, Amari Cooper next year, I think he's a guy you want to go get now, whether you're contending or even if you're not contending. Go try and get Amari Cooper now if you can. I have him in our Dynasty League. I drafted.
That's right.
Also drafted Deshaun Watson to go along with him. I'm super pumped. I got Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence in that league too. I got 2 amazing stacks. Super pumped for next year. But Jeff, let's move on to your second guy here. Who are you looking to buy if you're trying to win this year?
This is who I would go for instead of Cordarelle Patterson.
Ooh.
Jeff Wilson Jr. He is way under the radar right now. He's in a high-powered offense. He is the lead back in that offense. And the way that they have to watch out for those wide receivers, it is letting holes be open for him, and he is taking advantage of them. He is a very solid running back. That's what I like about him, and I think he is still very gettable.
Yeah, I'm in on Jeff Wilson. If you can go get him over Cordarelle Patterson, count me in. Jeff Wilson outsnapped Raheem Mostert in his first week in Miami. It's now his second week in Miami, and he was on the field for 61% of the time. That's a number that's going to stay probably around that area. I think if you get the number one back on a good offense, he's been super efficient every time he's had the ball, whether it's in San Francisco or now. 7 yards per carry last week. That's an amazing number. He's going to score because this team is now a great offense. You're going to get those red zone opportunities. And he's a better football player than Cordarelle Patterson. So put all 3 of those things together, and I'm in.
I didn't say all that, Cordell. That wasn't me. That was him.
Cordell, you always have love with me, dude. I'm just telling you.
That was him.
Will, anything you want to add to Jeff Wilson Jr.? I see you shaking your head down.
I like Jeff. I got him on a couple of my teams, and yeah, the only thing that scares me is like with Jeff is where is there enough touches for everybody? I think he'll get touches, but at those crucial points in the season, at the playoff time, I think Miami, you got to be careful. Miami is who they are. It's Tua, it's throwing the ball, and that's okay with Wilson, but he's never going to be, he should be the 3rd or 4th choice, if that.
So he had 17 rushes last week and 5 targets.
Okay.
In this offense that has Tyreek Hill.
Look, it's not just touches and targets. It's what happened with those touches and targets. And in that Miami offense, what scares me is the big plays, the big fantasy points don't come from the running back position.
Yeah, I think he proved last week, you said, so he had 17 rushes, 7 yards per carry, 5 targets, 12 yards per catch.
And how many touchdowns?
1. 21 points last week.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to put up 21 points a week. He's going to put up 14, 15 points a week, I think.
Okay.
I think he's going to be consistent.
I'm just saying, let's not overestimate Jeff Wilson in that current offense. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying he's not an important piece of the offense. He's just not the focal point of the offense, and he's not going to be.
No, I don't think he's going to be, but I think that probably helps them out more. They play New England week 17, so New England's not going to come in this game and say, all right, let's stop Jeff Wilson Jr. They're going to come in and say, we're stopping we're stopping Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and that opens things up for Jeff Wilson. That's what I like about this. He gets 5-man, 6-man boxes because they're playing the pass. And he's on a better offense than Cordarelle Patterson. He's more talented than Cordarelle Patterson. He's going to consistently see more touches than Cordarelle Patterson. I know Jeff made some pretty good points. I think he's a better option than Cordarelle Patterson.
I'll drink to that.
There we go. Will, this one's for Jeff. But Will,
look, this is the one
we traded for.
Yeah, this is the one that would make me give up a 2nd-round pick. And I know I'll never get him for a 2nd-round pick, but
you can get him for a late first though. And I would give up a late first for this guy.
And that's DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf down the stretch in those division games. And this is can we give the NFL a little bit of credit on their scheduling change? How they've put division games at the end of the schedule? Because your primetime players, the DK Metcalf, they get up for those games. Let him get on the field against the 49ers. Let him get on the field against the Rams in Arizona and watch what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's situational football for me right now. If I'm giving up a second or a late first, I need a guy who's going to put up numbers, but also be motivated to put up numbers. And that's who DK Metcalf is, man. When he comes in that game ready to make a point, woo.
And they're a team that no one really expected to be in the position that they're in, but they're lead of their division by far. These games matter. Playoff seeding.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff did, but Jeff didn't expect this from the Seahawks. He will even admit that. Yeah, you expected the Seahawks to be, what are they? Or I guess they're 6-4 now, but they were they were 6-3. I don't think your happiest dreams you thought that your team was 6-3 with Geno Smith second in QBR. I think this team has overperformed everyone's expectations, including their own.
Yeah.
And I'm in on DK Metcalf. 24 years old too, so you're buying him to help you win this year. Yeah. Guess who he plays? So week 12, he's on bye. Week 11, week 12, Las Vegas, amazing game. Mm-hmm. The Rams, okay. Carolina's defense has been terrible. San Francisco has been okay.
But and that game's at home though. At home against the 49ers.
KC.
Yeah.
Whose defense can't stop anyone. And then the Jets, whose defense has been good.
And that's the one that makes me nervous. When I look at that schedule, that's the one game championship week.
Sauce and DK. Sauce on DK.
Look, they may get ejected.
It's great.
They may not make it to the end of the game.
Yeah, but I think he's a good trade forward candidate, Jeff. I assume you're in on DK Metcalf as well.
I am, because I have him.
Yeah, this has been a Jeff show, to be honest. We talked about his guys, Derrick Henry, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, and he didn't even have to bring those guys up. And he got to bring two more guys up he wanted to talk about.
I know. But yeah, no, I would be trying to get him. Actually, in some other leagues that I did not get him, I'm trying to make a move to get him now.
Yeah, definitely go get him. If you could have bought him at the beginning of the season when everyone was worried about the whole quarterback situation, you're looking pretty good.
We got to do that hindsight show.
Yeah,
that's true.
Because everybody crapped all over Seattle, and everybody hyped Denver. We need to do a show just about that.
Yeah, we definitely can. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here. We have 6 more guys to talk about, guys who maybe your team's not looking too good this year. Maybe you're older and you want to get younger. Guys that are going to have brighter futures. They're going to be worth more in the future than they currently are now. I'm going to go first. I'm going to talk about my RB1 in Dynasty football that I don't think is currently being valued as the RB1 due to injury. Go get yourself some Breece Hall. I don't care what you're giving up to get Breece Hall. As long as maybe the one, I would probably give up the 101 for Breece Hall. I think that he's an amazing talent. I'm not worried about what James Robinson, the addition of James Robinson means. They gave up almost no capital for him. Michael Carter, I don't think is a serious threat. This team looks good right now. If they can get a competent quarterback, I think that just continues to open things up at the running back position. Breece Hall, 22 years old, is the RB1 in Dynasty, in my opinion. People are kind of nervous, injuries. Maybe they want him. Maybe Breece Hall is on a team that's trying to win this year. If you have, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, if you compare one of those older running backs and a pick and go get yourself Breece Hall, you got to do that every day of the week. Go get yourself some Breece Hall. Jeff, you hyped for Breece Hall next season?
I am. I think he's going to recover well. I think he's going to be just as strong next year, and I think the backfield will be at least a good 90% all his. James Robinson, they didn't sign him to any extension or anything, so I believe he's just, he's going to be a free agent after next year. And like you said, Michael Carter, who knows? They might get rid of him, or definitely, as you saw, when Breece Hall started to break out, there was a lot less of Michael Carter to even worry about. So, I think he is the man going forward, and he's gonna just get better. And he's also going to be a friend of media. Just want to throw that out there.
Yes, we need Breece Hall. I love me some Breece Hall. Will?
Okay, I'm gonna have two very different points to make here. I love Breece Hall.
Will's gonna debate against him.
He doesn't
want to give up first-round picks. So
see, that's my thing, because running backs come in this league now and they hit the ground running. And there's going to be good running backs in the draft next year that you can get in the third round or second round that can produce for you. Maybe not at Breece Hall's level or expected level. I just hate giving up draft quantity when it's a position that the NFL itself doesn't value that much, right? And so I just don't know. Like, honestly, I may take a flyer in our Dynasty League. I may give up a fourth-round pick for Robinson if I don't have him on my roster, because I know he's going to be a free agent and he's going to be valued by a team like Kansas City or, I don't know, the Rams maybe. Somebody I'm trying to think that they're going to want to bring somebody in with a little bit of experience. So I like Breece Hall, but I don't think, well, it just depends. If it was just a late first-round pick, one first-round pick, I'd consider it. But I don't think the owners are going to move off him for one first-round pick. I think they're going to want.
That's why I think you have to give a good guy who's currently on now, and a pick. And I'd be okay moving if you can move a Dalvin Cook and a late first or an early second for Breece Hall.
Yeah,
I'd do that any day of the week. I have Breece Hall in our Dynasty League, and I would not move. I'm to everyone I have currently talked about except for Derrick Henry. I own in that Dynasty League, and the last player I'm going to talk about, I also own in that Dynasty League. So I'm actually talking about guys I fully believe in.
Yeah.
So take everything I say.
Hey, but
I'm going to ride or die with these guys.
So what offer would I have to make to you to get Breece Hall?
You couldn't get Breece Hall from me.
Right.
But I've seen.
So for viewers, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't go so overboard that it becomes an absurd trade.
No, that's why I said I think he's the RB1 in Dynasty football. And you both looked at me like, I don't know if I would value him as the RB1 in Dynasty. That's why I think
it's neck and neck. I'd say 1A and 1B, and it's interchangeable with Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
And I did have somebody try to give me a first and a second for Kenneth Walker. I thought about it, but I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, so it depends on how you, like I said, I'm fully willing to give up draft picks if I know I can get a guy who's going to – Breece Hall's got 5 more years of being an RB1, in my opinion. And then he'll hit the fall off where most players do, 27, 28. Most running backs start to fall off. But 5 years of Breece Hall, maybe you only get 2 more years out of him and you trade him for pretty much whatever you could get him for now. I think that going to get your guy, as I said, to me – he's if I'm drafting startup right now, he's the first running back I'm taking off the board. Jeff, who's the first? This is going to spark some debate here. Jeff, let's hear your argument for Justin Fields.
I'm thinking next year that they are really going to go out and get some more guys for Justin Fields. I think you can get him at a good price. I don't think you have to give up a first. I think you can go ahead and possibly get him for a second or a third. Probably throw in some kind of stable quarterback or maybe a RB2 or something else. And I think this kid is going to have a bright future. I really think he is starting to show he's starting to get the game. I think he's starting to see things move a lot slower. And I think he's got a bright future. I think he's going to be one guy that can go ahead and get you 2 touchdowns through the air and 1 touchdown on the ground. I think he's going to be next year's Jalen Hurts this year, but with a little bit more upside. That's it.
See, to me, I would not. I would, if I had Justin Fields, I would trade him away to Jeff right now.
Yeah.
You're looking at the guy who's currently the QB4, and that's so his last 3 weeks. We're going to look at 30 points, 49 points, pretty much 50 points, and 44 points. 150 passing yards, 123 passing yards, and 167 passing yards. The rushing numbers, 60, 178, and 147, those numbers are going to come down if he gets more talent around him, and I'm not so sure I'm willing to bet on the arm of Justin Fields. But those carries right now have come on the fact that he is the number one option in this offense. And if you start to build around that, those rushing numbers will start to come down a little bit. And I'm nervous about Justin Fields the same way I'm nervous about Jalen Hurts. Is they really Justin Fields has been able to throw touchdown passes the past couple weeks, but on the back of 123 yards, that's not something that's sustainable. You're going to have weeks where 3 weeks without a touchdown.
Let me throw this out there, and I know you guys are. I'm just throwing gasoline on the fire. Young Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson can throw the ball.
So can Justin Fields.
Deshaun Watson has top-level arm talent. Justin Fields does not. Justin Fields is literally
talent.
No, Justin Fields is literally Jalen Hurts. They play the same game, run first, throw second.
Dustin. I don't even know who Dustin is. Young Deshaun Watson. That's what I meant to say.
No. I am out on Justin Fields. Sell high. You can probably get a couple firsts for Justin Fields right now, and I'm taking that in a Superflex league any day.
And that's what I said in my notes too. I said, well, he goes both ways. If I could sell high on him right now and possibly get some, so he goes both ways for me. But if I could get him for a second or third, I would try.
I'm trying to contemplate what Jeff got in that coffee cup, because I was okay. Not that I was okay with it, but when you said a young Deshaun Watson, okay, brother, I'm not sure about that one, bro. Dude, the problem with Deshaun Watson is he's the only offense they have, and that's why you see
the problem with Justin Fields.
I mean,
just clarify, we're not talking about Deshaun Watson.
The problem with Justin Fields is he's the only offense the Bears have, and therefore he gets all that yardage. Honestly, the worst thing for fantasy owners is for Justin Fields to have any more talent around him, because then the pressure from the coaching staff and everybody is you got to get wide receiver X, running back Z the ball. The only way Justin Fields works is if the Bears do not change for the next 4 years. Now, there is a high probability that could happen. But like you even said, Jeff, they're going to draft more talent. The problem for the Bears front office is I don't think the Bears front office is sold on Justin Fields. And that first pick might be a quarterback. So they might bring in more talent, and it may not be the talent that's helpful to Justin Fields. So, and I'm just telling you, like, I think it's fool's gold right now. Everybody loves those rushing touchdowns. I get that's how we look at it from a fantasy perspective. And it's great for this year. So I think the one thing you are right about, Jeff, is if you get a 2 or 3 first round pick offer for him, you take it. You take it now. You're not going to get that ever again for Justin Fields.
Yeah, that's why to me he's a sell candidate.
He's a sell candidate, yeah.
I don't love the prospect of young rushing quarterbacks. We see it end especially for Dynasty. We don't see it end up well ever. We're yet to see a rushing quarterback last 10 years.
Jeff, he's a young RG3.
Jeff, I would stick to the Jalen Hurts comparison. He's turned out a little better than RG3. We seem to be going down a little bit. I don't think the Bears are going to bring in another quarterback next year. No. Justin Fields has done what he's needed to do these past few weeks. He's earned himself that right to be their starting quarterback. I don't like the options.
I think you guys have to be careful. And this being an NFC North guy, you know how when you're a fan, Jeff knows the NFC West. Zach, you know the NFC South. The Bears are
okay. Hold on. Before we talk about, so I know the NFC South. You don't want Cordarelle Patterson on your team. I'm just gonna tell you that.
I'll pin that.
Back to your point, Will. Back to your point.
But look, the Bears, you don't move on from the players they're moving on if it's not a complete rebuild. And Justin So what happens when Justin wants money? Are they really going to pay him $25 million a year? Are you going to pay Justin Fields $25-30 million a year and he can't throw the ball?
Yes. By the time he comes up for a contract extension, $30 million is going to be like the 30th highest.
And the whole NFC North fan base just stood up and said, "Thank you, Jesus," because if that happens, it is the best thing to happen to the rest of the league because that is cap space not well spent.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback position already, you're up in the $45 million per year. By the time Fields gets his extension in 3 years, that number is going to be up to 50, 60. So if you can get him for $30 million a year, absolutely, he's going to be worth that.
Okay, well,
but I don't think
market value is. They're not.
Oh, he's not going to get market. I don't think he's worth market value. No.
Right, and that's the point. I'm sorry. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
So you're giving up value and everything for a guy that honestly you don't know where he's going to be 3 years from now.
Yeah, I don't like the prospect of the running quarterbacks. Yeah. Like dynasty wise, who was the last quarterback that was run first that we've seen last for more than what? Mike Vick was the longest, and that wasn't very long. Well, his prime was quick. Lamar Jackson's the closest thing we've seen, and he's currently going. We'll see how long that lasts for.
And that's why I brought up RG3 because remember how valuable he was in fantasy leagues at his first couple of years, and people regret overvaluing him. It burned a lot of people.
First year.
Yeah,
but he ended with a very bad catastrophic injury that kept him from being,
catastrophic injuries that come with running
the football.
He was already frail. He was already, that one I could kind of foresee happening a little bit more than Justin Fields.
But Cam Newton was perfectly healthy throughout the first how many years of his career, and it just caught up with him. Yeah, and there's no one bigger at the quarterback position than Cam Newton.
Also, they were letting Cam Newton get killed, and they were running Cam Newton.
It's not like the Bears.
Fullback.
Yeah, but that's what the Bears are doing right now. They don't have an offensive line, and Justin Fields is their offense. That's what Cam Newton was. He was their offense, and he would just plow through everyone. That's what Justin Fields is doing. It's not sustainable.
He's a little bit more elusive. He's not taking the same hits that Cam Newton is taking.
So what wide receiver is going to want to play with him?
Apparently Chase Claypool.
Okay. Well, what free agent big name wide receiver is going to want to go play with Justin Fields?
Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio
he doesn't get a choice. He doesn't get a choice.
In the draft.
He doesn't get a choice, though. It's not like he can pick or –
That's how
to an extent, I guess he could. He could pull an Eli Manning.
That's how they're going to build.
But
Ohio State receivers come out, and they are basically wide receivers 2. It's almost like Justin Jefferson and coming out. I mean, I'm saying those guys are coming out like wide receiver 1s. Ohio State receivers are coming out as wide receiver 2s. Look at Chris Olave right now.
What about him?
He's been great.
But that's what I'm saying. He's a wide receiver 2. He's better than a lot of guys that have been in the league. Yeah. So, Harrison Jr. is going to be a beast.
He's going to be, but not on Chicago. If he goes to Chicago, that's going to ruin his career.
Yes,
that's it for him. It's not a good spot. Like Garrett Wilson's career, possibly ruined because he went to New York.
Yeah,
not going to be ruined. They're not going to keep on trying to push Zach Wilson here pretty soon. They're going to realize.
I hope so because
too many other quarterbacks.
Garrett Wilson
here. And they're going to grab somebody in the second round or third round.
Garrett Wilson was my number 2 wide receiver in this draft class, and the Jets are holding him back badly. But Will, let's move on to your next guy, a guy I also like, and a guy you own in our Dynasty League.
And it's why I took him in the Dynasty League. Tony Pollard is the number 1 running back on the Dallas Cowboys. And because ownership is so egotistical, they are going to let him go, and he's going to go to Kansas City, or he's going to go to Miami, or he's going to go to a team that's missing that dynamic running back. And you get him now. He's playing now. He's putting up good numbers now. It's not even a future, hey, I have to wait till next year. He can help you now, and he will pay off for you next year. So every dynasty league I have Tony Pollard. Because that is an investment in the future, and he is going to be he might be the number one free agent. Truth be told, I think he's going to be the most dynamic and number one free agent in free agency. Because when you watch him play, that Cowboy offense is way more dynamic with him on the field. And I don't dislike Zeke, but Zeke is not a better running back than Tony Pollard. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Tony Pollard, he's been efficient with his touches.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at his yards per carry this year, he's at 6 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an amazing value. Even if he stays with Dallas, this isn't Zeke's team anymore. He's lost that over the past couple of weeks. Pollard's put up a 30-point week, a 20-point week on 9 yards per carry and 5 yards per carry.
Imagine if they had started him. Mm-hmm. Imagine if he didn't have to play the first part of the season as the number 2 running back. And it's
just the only thing that worries me about Pollard is once he gets a full workload, can he stay healthy? Because he hasn't had that before.
True.
So I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm still in on Tony Pollard because no matter where he goes, he has fantasy value. If he stays, he has fantasy value. If he goes somewhere else, he's going somewhere else because he's going to get more touches than what he would get in Dallas, which is going to be good for his value. So I'm in Tony Pollard.
He might go to Philly or you think where he.
Oh yeah, because Miles Sanders is probably gone.
Yeah. Oh my God! Like, imagine him on that Philly offense right now. Ooh.
Yeah, but I just want to point out Miles Sanders isn't a bad running back. The Eagles have ruined him.
Yeah.
The Eagles ruined Miles Sanders. I loved Miles Sanders coming out of college. Yeah. And he's been 5 yards per carry almost every year. And somehow the Eagles have failed to get him involved in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's been painful. But, I'm in on Tony Pollard. Jeff, what do you think about Tony Pollard?
He's the number 1 running back in Dallas right now, which is always a big deal. He runs like he's shot out of a cannon sometimes, man. You just see him come through that line. Yeah, Zeke is pretty much done. He's on the sideline. He doesn't even look like he's looking to really suit up and get out there and play. I think he kind of knows that my time here is up. This is now Pollard's time, and Pollard's killing it. He really is. So, they got the line that's halfway decent now. It's somewhat of a high-powered offense, and he's part of that reason. He is catching out of the backfield. He's and running. So now he's got it all. So yes, I love him.
Yeah, I think we're consensus there. Tony Pollard's a guy you should definitely go at least check in on. Let's move on. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing a Lions jersey. Gotta support Jameson Williams. He's not number 18 anymore because he changed his number to number 9. But you got to go get yourself Jameson Williams before he touches the football field in December. Mm-hmm. He's going to get in. He's going to get some practice reps. He's going to just be in there to try and get a feel for the NFL game. I love that for him. He is not going to help you win this year. He was a late first-round pick in most, maybe mid to late. So he's probably on a guy's team that's in the playoff contention. This is why he's the perfect buy candidate. Go give him one of your older players, maybe a second-round pick, and get yourself Jameson Williams. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Detroit for years and years to come. And if he's not in Detroit, he's going to be somewhere else. He was my wide receiver 1 coming out of this draft class. I had him over everyone else. I think he's an elite talent, an elite prospect, and I think it's going to pay off long run. He's just special. He's one of those special talents you see. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to see what I own Jameson Williams in our Dynasty League. I own him in another Dynasty League, and I'm trying to get him in my other Dynasty League right now. Trying to flip Brian Robinson in something to get me some Jameson Williams. So I think he's a guy you want to get in before it's too late, because if he hits like I think he's going to, he's going to be one of the top Dynasty wide receivers for many years. And you can't find that very often, especially if he's on a team that can compete right now. Go give up, if you have an older wide receiver, it doesn't even have to be super old, maybe 30-year-old wide receiver, a second-round pick. Go flip it into Jameson Williams, and you will be happy with the results next year when he's on the field. Jeff, I know you're also a fan of Jameson.
Yep. Just because you don't know what you're going to get. And he's one of those guys that can turn out, like I said, to be another Justin Jefferson, another what's the kid in Cincinnati?
Chase.
Jamar Chase. So, I'm just hoping he's not a Jerry Jeudy. So that's the only thing. And I don't think he is. I think he's got speed. The kid is he can catch. He's a guy that you want to go ahead and take the flyer on, like Zach is saying. I picked him up in a bunch of my leagues where people kind of forgot about him. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's true as well. People expected him to be back in October. And the Lions are being smart with this. They know he's their future. He's not for this year. They don't want him to come back where he's going to have too high a chance of re-injury. And that's something I'm also looking at when I'm like, all right, this team traded up for him. They knew he wasn't going to play for majority of the season. They are playing for next year. And he's going to be a big part of their offense. He's going to dethrone Amon-Ra St. Brown as wide receiver 1 in that offense next year.
Yep.
Will, what do you think?
So you're talking to the NFC North guy.
Yep. You don't like Lions.
I don't like the Lions coaching staff. I don't like their front office.
I don't think the Lions coaching staff has more than a year left.
Right, and that makes me nervous because you don't know if I can get in for a third-round pick. Yeah, I'm just nervous because you've watched too much talent go to Detroit. And look, there's guys that have Megatron walked away from the game pretty much in his prime. Said, F this. Right? I mean, Detroit is a bad franchise. So I feel sorry for this kid because you were talking about the Jets, Zach, how kind of just you worry about what's happening there. That's my same concern here. I don't think Goff has that much time left in Detroit. I don't think the coaching staff has that much time left in Detroit. So then the question is, it's a big what if.
To me, that only brings upside. To me, Jared Goff and Dan Campbell is worst case scenario for Jameson Williams.
But you remember, this is the ownership that picked Matt Millen to coach a team to 0-16. Right? It'd be one thing if it was the Bears, the Packers, the Vikings in the NFC North. The ownership or the management, they've put together good teams before. Detroit doesn't put together good teams. Players go there and their careers disappear. So it makes me nervous. You've got a kid with great talent coming off an injury, and you have a maybe the worst franchise in the NFL outside of the Commanders, the ownership. And so it just makes me, they don't have patience with their coaches. They give Dan Campbell a lot of time, but then they fire other coaches they should have kept.
Jim Caldwell.
So I just, I don't know what the heck the Lions are doing. They actually have a lot of good talent on this team right now. But it just makes me nervous watching the Lions for 40 years. Look, this team is quick to make a mistake. And so that's the one thing that makes me nervous. I think the kid's great. I think if he was in any other franchise, I'd be like, yeah, get all on him. It's just the Lions make me nervous.
Yeah, I get that. And I understand why the Lions would make you nervous. But to me, as I said, I think that this is probably worst case scenario for him is Jared Goff. Like, the quarterback position is going to get better in the future, and they'll probably get a new coaching staff. But we've seen so many situations where just the talent shines through at the wide receiver position. DeAndre Hopkins had one of the worst head coaches ever, atrocious quarterbacks, and he was elite for fantasy football.
Yeah.
And, we've seen Calvin Johnson. I'm not going to compare Jameson Williams to Calvin Johnson at this point in his career, but he's had monster fantasy. He was the wide receiver 1 for multiple years, right? So I think that it is definitely a situation where it could be better, but also I think this is going to be a situation where talent shines through. And to me, he is more talented than Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think that's going to come out to fruition. There's a lot of people who are super high on Amon-Ra St. Brown, and to me, he's a sell. He's a sell candidate. If you have him in Dynasty, I just traded him away for Kyle Pitts in the league. And I traded Amon-Ra and Dawson Knox for Kyle Pitts and a second-round pick.
Oh, that's a steal.
And it's a high second-round pick, too. I think the guy's in 10th place right now, so it's going to be a high second-round pick. And I'm sitting here like, I just got the generational talent at tight end. I got rid of a guy who I think is going to be surpassed by Jameson Williams, who's sitting on my bench right now.
Yeah.
So I think Jameson is just, I think the talent's going to shine through in a crappy opportunity, and the opportunity can only get better from here, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the Lions that are probably the worst for him. Add in a rookie quarterback, maybe next year they draft someone. They probably will draft someone next year.
Yeah.
Give him a year, maybe Goff starts again next year. He can put up some fantasy points, but I like Jameson Williams. But let's move on. We got 2 more guys left. Jeff, you want to talk about another quarterback named Justin?
Yep. Justin Herbert. Get him while he's down. That's the whole thing, especially for next year. I think they're going to make some huge changes. They're going to get their defensive-minded coach that can't run a defense out of that head coaching position and get in an offensive-minded coach, and he's going to put Justin Herbert back where he should be. And I think hopefully by the end of the season where you're in your playoffs or possibly even going for a championship, he might be valuable this year, getting all of his complement of weapons back, getting Keenan Allen back, getting Mike Williams back. I'm making a move and seeing if I can get him kind of on the cheap.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who's you can get him on the cheaper side of his value, but he's still super young, great promise. So if you can go get him for anything less than a Dynasty, he's probably just quickly throwing out things. He's probably a top 3 Dynasty quarterback in my opinion right now. So if you can go get him for anything less than that value wise, I'm definitely in. Anything you want to add on Justin Herbert? Will, are you nervous about this year? Or I think it's just the weapons and the system. Weapons in the system for me.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. It's that team needs to retool a little bit. They're getting old, and they need some young talent. So, but he is the building block for the next 12, 15 years. So if you can get him,
is this where we see Marvin Harrison Jr. go? Chargers trade up in the draft.
That'd be interesting.
That would be the ideal spot for him to go.
Yeah.
Well, and look, the one thing the recent wide receivers have taught us coming in as rookies, that 1 year off thing is done.
Yeah.
So like the
Herbert
expectation,
he'll be back to a top 5 quarterback next year.
These rookie wide receivers come in and they're immediately up and going. And there's a lot of good talent coming out in that draft next year. It is going to be amazing watching the wide receivers and running backs that'll go in 4th, 5th round to an NFL team and could potentially be a wide receiver 1 during their career. It's going to be it's really interesting.
That's why I'm currently stockpiling draft picks for this year's draft. I got 3 firsts in our Dynasty League, 2 seconds. I got in another league, I have, I think, 6 second-round picks currently. I'm just going to eat in that second round, and I'm going to fill out my team there. We got one more player before we close it off here.
So I submitted this last week, right?
Yeah.
And I feel bad he got hurt. But it's Khalil Herbert for the Bears. I think he's a long-term buy for them. So if you can get him now, it may be a good time to trade for him. He's on IR for 4 weeks. I don't know if he'll play again this year. To be honest,
he'll probably play,
but it'll be late.
He's not important enough to the team where he won't play if they.
But it might be outside. It might be the very tail end of the fantasy season. By the time he comes
it will be. I don't know if he'll play fantasy wise. No.
That's what I mean. So I think if you can get him and you can get him cheap right now, it's a good. I think he's an RB2 for you next year. And he's young, and he's a guy who'll give you 3-4 good years. And if you can get him for a 2nd or 3rd round pick, I don't know if I would go 2nd. I'm cheap with my draft picks, but third.
Yeah, that's my takeaway from this show is if I'm ever trying to do a trade with Will, I'm not doing a trade for draft picks. I'm trying to sell high on my draft picks and sell them all to Will because Will values his draft picks high.
Well, look, be honest, it's going to be one draft after another, right? I mean, this depends. Next year's, I'm high on next year's draft. I think the NFL draft next year is going to be great. So for Dynasty, this is a year to stock picks for next year. I'm not sure about the following year, though. So it might be
stock picks for 2023. You want 2023 picks.
And you may want to move picks from 2024 into 2023 if you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I have two. So I have 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and I have 2 first-round next year, 2024, that I might end up moving for either. I think my team's going to be able to compete next year, so I might just sell my first-round picks for actual players, or I can sell them for more picks this year, trade up, see how it pans out. Maybe try and get I was hoping to get the 101 with my pick, but that didn't turn out so well. So we'll see.
Because Jeff's team didn't.
Yeah, Jeff, what the hell happened with your team last week? I'm sitting here like, all right,
I don't know.
I'm facing number 4 in the league. I can take an L here. I'm going to go on to next week, try and lose again.
Just gloated about the pairing of Derrick Henry and K9-3, Kenneth Walker III, and they both kind of just took this. It was like defenses heard me or just like, let's just stop those 2 guys. So that was the issue. And then I sat Christian Watson on the bench.
So I started Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson in that league, and I won. I started both of them, and I won.
Hey, real quick, if there was ever a time to sell on Christian Watson, it's now.
True. I'm going to hang on to him, though. I'm going to hang on to him.
Well, I would not be buying him, but you number 1 place in that league, Lord Lambos, he's a Packers fan, so.
Very true.
He might be able to get a couple first-round picks, Jeff.
Well, I have his first-round picks, but I have both his first-round picks for this year and next year.
Sorry about that, Jeff.
For the Joe Burrow trade. But, let's end that show here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys both for joining. Talked a lot of good Dynasty football. Hopefully we can all make some trades within the next couple of weeks here before trade deadlines. Ideally, trade deadline should be a week or 2 before the playoffs start, just to make sure those teams, maybe you're 6th or 7th, you're trying to fight for that last spot. You want to have a pretty good idea of whether you should be trying to buy or should be trying to sell for next year. So I think that's important in your dynasty leagues. Maybe you're the commish. Maybe you hear this. You're like, maybe I should push the trade deadline back a couple weeks. The answer to that question is definitely push it back. But yeah, as I said, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you tune in again next week. We will be here. And thanks, Will and Jeff, as always, for hopping on.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.